Today, we're going to take a trip, an epic journey, way back in time. We're going to uncover the single greatest change in human history, a transformation so huge it literally made our modern world possible. Let's dive in. So, think about your life right now. You've got your home, your neighborhood, a grocery store down the street. It all feels so permanent, doesn't it? But what if I told you that for almost all of our time on this planet, humans lived a totally, completely different way? The answer is just staggering. 99%. You heard that right. For 99% of human history, we weren't settled. No cities, no towns, no permanent homes whatsoever. That's because for something like 2 million years, our ancestors were what we call hunter-gatherers. Their entire lives were defined by movement, this nomadic existence that was all about finding food and, well, surviving. So, what did this world actually look like? Why were our ancestors constantly on the go? It wasn't just random wandering. It was a really smart, strategic way to live. Yeah, this whole nomadic life was a masterclass in survival. It really boiled down to 4 key things. First, if you stay in one spot too long, you're going to eat all the berries and scare off all the animals. Simple as that. Second, they hunted big herds, and those herds were always moving, so you had to move with them. Third, you've got the seasons. You had to follow the ripening fruits and plants. And last, but maybe most important of all, water. When a river or a spring dried up, you had no choice. You had to pack up and move on. Okay, but wait a second. How do we actually know all of this? I mean, it's not like they left us any books to read. The answer is in the amazing clues they left behind, like a prehistoric survival kit that archaeologists have been piecing together for ages. Their genius really shines through in their tools. Stone tools are what survived the best, and they were basically the Swiss Army knives of the Paleolithic. Just look at these. You can picture them being used for everything, cutting up a hunt, scraping hides to make clothing, even tying them to sticks to make deadly spears. But they didn't just leave behind tools. They left us their stories. Deep inside caves, we find these absolutely incredible paintings. This one, showing a hunt in action, isn't just art. It's a direct window into their world, into their minds. It shows us exactly what mattered to them: survival, community, and the animals they shared the world with. So they had these sharp tools, they had art, they had a deep knowledge of nature. But there was one discovery, one single thing, that would give them an incredible advantage and change their world forever. Any guesses what it was? Yup, fire. It seems so simple to us today, right? But for early humans, mastering fire was absolutely everything. It completely changed the game of survival. And we know for a fact they used it. Archaeologists have found traces of ash in places like the Kernal Caves in India. But what did fire mean for them? It meant having light in the pitch-black darkness. It meant warmth against the biting cold. It meant they could cook meat, making it safer and easier to eat. And it was a weapon to keep terrifying predators at bay. It was a total game changer. So for millions of years, this was the rhythm of life: hunt, gather, move, repeat. But then, starting around 12,000 years ago, the planet itself began to change. Big time. It started warming up, and this great thaw was about to kick off a revolution. Let's put this into perspective. The Paleolithic, or the Old Stone Age. That's that massive 99% of human history we talked about. But that warming trend around 12,000 years ago, that kicks off a new phase called the Mesolithic, or Middle Stone Age. And right after that, about 10,000 years ago, we enter the Neolithic, the New Stone Age. And this is when everything changes forever. So what did this new world look like? Before the big thaw, it was colder. Resources were harder to come by. But afterwards, with warmer conditions, huge grasslands started to spread across the world. And that led to a population boom for animals that love to eat grass. Think wild goats, sheep, and deer. All of a sudden, the world was just full of new possibilities. And this is where our ancestors make an absolutely brilliant leap. Instead of just following these new herds around, they start to think, what if we could control them? What if we could control our food source instead of it controlling us? And what's incredible is that we can actually see this happening in the archaeological record. I mean, just look at these pig teeth. The big, scary-looking ones on the right, that's a wild pig. The smaller ones on the left, that's from a domesticated one. Over generations of human care, their bodies literally changed. This whole process has a name: domestication. It's the moment people went from just being takers to being shapers of nature. They started picking the gentlest animals to breed, the plants with the biggest seeds to replant. They were actively creating better versions of the plants and animals around them. So, who was first? Well, it was probably man's best friend. The wild ancestors of dogs were likely the first to be tamed, drawn to the safety and the scraps of human camps. After that came gentle herd animals like sheep and goats. And at the exact same time, people were figuring out how to grow the first crops, those wild grasses like wheat and barley that were now growing everywhere. This shift to farming and herding, it had massive world-altering consequences. Because for the first time in all of human history, people had a really good reason not to move. Think about it. If you plant a seed, you have to stick around to water it, to protect it, and then to harvest it. And that simple fact led to maybe the most radical invention ever, the permanent home. People started building villages, like this one, Meergard, which is one of the earliest settlements we've ever discovered.
But living in one place creates a whole new set of problems. When you harvest an entire field of wheat, you can't eat it all at once. So what do you do with all the extra food? This problem sparked an absolute explosion of new technology. People developed polished stone tools, perfect for clearing land for their farms. They invented mortars and pestles to grind all that grain into flour. And crucially, they figured out how to make pottery, clay pots for storing food and cooking. They even started weaving cloth. This wasn't just a new set of tools, it was the birth of an entirely new way of life. So let's zoom in on one of these incredible first villages just to see what this new world looked and felt like. Let's go back to Meergard. At this one single place, archaeologists found the whole package. They found the remains of some of the first houses, the bones of domesticated sheep and goats, and the seeds of the first farmed wheat and barley. It's like finding the original blueprint for human civilization. So from nomads to farmers, this one great transformation put us on the path to cities, to technology, to the world you see all around you right now. It was the moment we started to reshape the planet to fit our own needs. And it really makes you wonder, what's going to be our next great shift?